I have come to Turkey to explore Turkish life across vast country as it lobbies the European Union to open membership talks. In the months I would spend in Turkey, I would also discover the Kurdish land and its people, whose identity has been denied for the past 80 years. I have decided to begin my journey from the border that divides Kurdish native land.
أتو أمنت هيا؟ دباشة زوم كمان. The place I'm staying right now is the border that divides Kurdistan. A few hundred meters away actually is Iran. Right behind me is Iraq, and a few kilometers away is the Syrian border. But don't forget, this region is Kurdish region and all these people are Kurds. But this border continues to divide these people together.
The Kurds are the largest ethnic group in the world without a state of their own. They have been divided between four main countries: Syria, Iraq, Iran, and Turkey. There are over 30 million Kurds, half of whom live in Turkey. During the creation of the 1920 Treaty of Sevres, convened after the First World War, when the Ottoman Empire was being carved up, the Kurds promised an independent homeland. Later, Imperial Britain created the state of Iraq, integrated southern oil-rich part of Kurdistan. Syria, which including the western parts of Kurdistan, was also created and placed under the French mandate. And the largest part of Kurdistan dissolved into the new Republic of Turkey, which was founded by Mustafa Kemal Atatürk in 1920. Later on, Atatürk and Western Allies replaced the previous Treaty of Sevres with Lausanne Treaty in 1923, and the Allies abandoned the idea of a Kurdish independent state. Revolts took place all over Kurdistan, but they were crushed one after another.
I'm going to visit the Kurdish refugees whose villages has been destroyed by Turkish army somewhere between 80s and 90s. Let me, for security reasons, do not reveal the name of the area. 20 years ago, Turkish security forces began a campaign of ethnic cleansing against Turkey's 15 million Kurds. The Kurds call it a campaign of genocide. The Turks call it a fight against terrorists. Now, 20 years later, in a border camp in the southeast of Turkey, I came across a survivor. His name is Saleh.
او 14 سالی بود.
بله.
ام 10
سال.
نه.
بله. 7 سالی.
نه 7 ساله.
بله.
ام 5 ساله.
بله.
ام 15 نه.
بله.
دخلون ها فکر
بله.
کنید.
بله دخلون ها 15 نه.
امی چنین؟
11.
11. اوی 16. خوش چند ساعته؟ 48 ساعت.
Meet Saleh and his gang. He talks openly about Kurds and a free Kurdistan, which according to Turkish penal code make him a separatist and liable for prosecution as a terrorist. He has an idea for his fellow Kurds how to carry out a terrorist act against the Turkish state.
Sizde zaruk kime? Sizde maşallah. Çuma sizde zaruk de? Sizde zaruk barxotinde eğer Kurda herkese ki sizde zaruk, 10 zaruk, 15 zaruk çınabon zide nebibon, düşmana diyem khore bon. Am çınad mon, am kim bon. Ne eğer zaruk gitme çan am çan zide ben düşman neşine ma, am pişti düşmana bişkine.
Saleh doesn't have a job. To feed his family, he has to smuggle goods between the dangerous border of Iran and Turkey. In the night I spent with them, I was touched deeply by their generous heart. They shared whatever they had with me, which was a little dry cheese and brown bread.
آرزوم اوه زاری که من بعد از دشمن من گل رزالتی من گل عزیتی بلا زاری که من اوه عزیتی نبینم و نراحتی نبینم کردستان رزگار بید.
Since 1920, the government of these countries in which Kurds reside have done everything in their power to limit or eradicate the Kurdish identity, while the world community turned a blind eye, using the excuse that they were unable to intervene in the sovereign affairs of other nations. At least this has been the case when those nations were US allies such as Iraq in the 80s and Turkey all along, whose purchase of armaments from Europe and the United States unified their international political agenda. I am on a road to Kurdistan, traveling undercover as a Canadian tourist. This region is beyond risk of being killed, which is pretty high for a journalist, especially with Kurdish ethnic background. There are so many checkpoints and military police on the way, and almost each few kilometers they take you down and search your stuff and questioning you why you are here, what you are doing, where are you from. I think it's wise for you to get out of this region as soon as possible and follow my story somewhere in a big city like Istanbul and Ankara. If this road could talk, what a tale it could be. Probably it would tell us how many tanks and military vehicles pass toward Kurdistan and how many Kurdish refugees escape Kurdistan from this road. Istanbul is a place where Eastern and Western civilizations meet. With its famous mosque, old walls, bazaars and nightlife, the city attracts thousands of foreigners each day. With a population of 10 million, Istanbul is Turkey's largest city. But what few foreigners know is 3 million of these people are Kurdish, making Istanbul the largest Kurdish city in Turkey. The majority of Istanbul's 3 million Kurds are refugees whose villages were destroyed by Turkish security forces In Istanbul, I was lucky to meet up with a group of young lawyers and doctors who are providing legal and medical aids to those who have been wrongfully convicted or tortured.
We take applications for those whose rights have been violated from state agents, from state authorities. And for example, these violations can be include torture, right to life, destruction of villagers.
Among a pile of files, I have decided to visit two of their clients. This is Amin. In 1993, he migrated from Kurdistan to Istanbul. In 2002, he was working in a small kebab restaurant like this one when Turkish police came and arrested him. He was tortured and kept in detention for 6 months. His crime? He was suspected of waving the Kurdish flag over Istanbul's old wall during the festivity of Kurdish New Year, Nowruz.
İşkence türü şöyle, biz işkencedeki polisteki işkencenin dışında işkence saymıyoruz. Ya bizim işkence bildiğimiz ancak bizi askıya alacaklar, buza yatıracaklar, tazikli suya tutacak, ceyrana verecekler, ona iş.
Onları da yaşadınız
ama diğer durumu da yaşadınız. Hepsini yaşadım, hepsini. Fakat hapishanede bunları yaşamadım.
Gibi işkencenin nasıl olduğunu söyleyebilir misiniz?
Ondan sonra şu kolları şu şekil, şöyle sıkı, böyle birbirine kenetleniyor. Şöyle şu şekil kenetliyor, tamam mı? Evet. Onu bir şeye geçiriyor. Artık göremiyorum yani.
Kanca mı yoksa?
Ben o arada fark edemiyorsun. Kanca mıdır?
Omuzlar böyle yerinden çıkıyor.
Tabii. Gel ben sana göstereyim. Gel. Şu şekil. Şu şekil. Orada. Şimdi.
Are you okay?
Tahminen 1 dakika falan sürüyor, 1 dakika, 1,5 dakika sürüyor. Fakat insana bir ömür gibi geliyor. Mesela bazı arkadaşlar diyor ki, beni diyor 15 dakika astılar diyor. Kesinlikle 15 dakika insan ölür. Yani kolları yerine çıkar.
For the past 80 years, Turkey followed Atatürk nationalist policy, which is one nation, one race, and one language. Turkey referred to the 15 million Kurds as the Mountain Turks. Although the Kurds share a distinct language, they were not even permitted to speak in the public or receive an education in their native language. In 1991, that ban was lifted, but the Kurdish language is still forbidden in broadcast, political and educational settings.
How could we convince a nation to stay within the borders of a country that has given them nothing but death and destruction? How would you agree to remain part of Turkey while the country does not let you speak your own language? While the country persecutes you for things that you have no control over? Did I decide to be born Kurdish?
In Turkey, since 1970, any political party that has attempted to deal with the Kurdish problem in a non-violent and democratic way has been labeled as a separatist, brought to trial, and shut down. This Turkish policy has radicalized certain faction of the Kurdish population to join a guerrilla group known as the PKK, the Kurdistan Worker Party. The PKK, under the leadership of Abdullah Öcalan, known as APO, positioned themselves in the mountain and engaged in combat with the Turkish security forces in the 80s. During the 15-year conflict, more than 37,000 people lost their lives. This cycle reached its peak in the 1980s and the 1990s, when Turkey's scorched earth policy destroyed more than 3,500 Kurdish villages and forcing more than 2 million Kurds into internal exile or permanent exile or refugee status. A short bus drive from the heart of Istanbul, there are shanty towns where hundreds of thousands of refugees live in abject poverty.
Çekiyorum hangi heyecan ne yapıyorsun ama hangi kanal bak düşecekler. Hocam böyle içine bakla. Bizi çek. Düşünce çekmeden. Düşünce çekmeden. Ayakkabıları çekin.
This is Camila Beyhan family, a Kurdish villager from southeast of Turkey.
I'm کوچبر بینوتی دولت من نتها هروش باسته گند کر هروش لانسری مد گرته بن چاوان شبکیش ساعت 8 نهان دار نه شبی و بته ساگند علتی کن همه خراب کرد جیران بری.
She said, one day in 1994, the Turkish army came to our village and gave us a choice. Join the village guard, which meant took arm against Kurdish guerrilla, or leave our home. We chose not to take arm. One night, they came back and surrounded our village, executed 5 of the village men, including my husband, and then burned to ground our homes.
That night, the special forces destroyed everything. We hid the children under beds or between animals. They took 5 men from our village and executed them right there. I was a little kid. I saw it with my own eyes. They gathered all the children under age 10 in a house and they wanted to burn them. During that night, Turkish soldiers dressed like a PKK guerrillas. Later, they came back to the village with a military uniform. This time, they brought media along and claimed that PKK committed that crime. We knew very well that it was the government, not the PKK. Here's the picture of my father and my brother. This is the last memory of my father. The picture was taken a month before he was killed by the state.
When her husband was killed in the village, how old she was?
Az. 27 سالمه تمام نبی.
How old are you right now?
Çıldırdım ben çıldırdım.
32 yaşında.
She was 32 years old.
32 years old.
Yes. Today she is 42 years old.
شش سالم هبی. مازن وان 14 سالی بی. بچوکا ماجی 2 سالی بی.
During the night her husband was executed. The next day, her eldest son took arms and joined the PKK guerrillas in the mountains. He was 14. They have not seen him since then.
خبر من استانیه. ام خبر نزانه جانا حواله واجلویتن. بیشم باشه یعنی بیشم باشه هیا باشه.
If she sees him, what she want to tell him?
اپی کیف خوشم کنه مثل چیه؟ آورمان جامنه. تو زمانی جا گازی کنه خانه کم که هک هبجی ازده هبجی از شینم. از کنه خوشین موجه. همان تو زمانی جناب جم دکترای ما به اپ سر بلندرم. اپ کیف خوشم کوچوا. حتی الها دست دشمنان دا رازیل دبن. براش بسیله ها خوش شال کش خو. از اپ کیف خوشم.
Nursel, 19, has been working since she was 10. She quit school to help her family. Currently, she's laid off.
Tekstilde çalışıyorum. Konfeksiyon tıkabıtı.
I was working in a factory.
Are you working right now?
Şu an çalışıyor musun?
Bir aydır çalışmıyorum, işim yok.
Right now, I am unemployed. I can't find a job.
She's not working. So, how old you were when you came to Istanbul?
İstanbul'a ilk geldiğimiz zaman kaç yaşındaydın?
8-9 arası.
I was 8 years old.
She was 8. So do you have any memory from your village?
Hiç hatıraların var mı köyden? Anıların?
Orada
That
en son
night
yaşadığım
wiped
geceyi
out
hiç
my memory.
unutmadım. Onun dışında
I
hiçbir şey
only
kalmadı.
remember the night my father was killed.
Eğer eğitimini sürdürme olanağın olsaydı ne olmak isterdin?
Avukat.
A lawyer.
Says I would like to
lawyer.
be lawyer.
So why avukat?
Neden?
Çünkü siyasetten o kadar çok insanlarımız yatıyor ki cezaevinden.
Because we have many political prisoners. I would like to defend them.
Eğlenimizden bir memleket gidiyor. Zat xwazimش من memleket. خودو جدی بینیم از زال جرا شده بیم. زال کیمه پیخواهش دبیم. همه زفت بیم چه مهندکی.
Köy bu?
از قفسنا میش تمیز تکر.
Kaçıncı sınıfa gidiyorsun?
ششان. دشمن ششان.
Çen sal kaç sizde?
13.
Geçen bir temiz.
Camila's second son is a fugitive from military service duty.
Tüm bu nakazın askeri bir kere.
ام نخوازین نه از کرن بابه هم کشت دولتی کشت ام نخوازین ظالم دولت را عسکری بکن خالتش ده عسکری به جو عطان خواه ناموسا خواه حتش خواه سال میشت که بیانه همچین عسکری هم چون کن و ناموسا منم دست به دولت ده و عطان منش خواه تمام
Boy zindan, jeter durum, liman çolar, dünyalımın boy zindan. Garibim az garibim, garibim az garibim, gönlemez talebinim yar yar yar.
Back in the office of Tohaf, I met the president of Association for Migration, which is campaigning for the return of Kurdish refugees to their villages. She was prosecuted for publishing a report about immigrants' problem.
She takes us to make her to be her legal representative in the court.
Bu araştırmanın amacı
And the main goal of this research was to show the problem and to find the solutions about this. Because of that report, she and Mehmet Barut, he is a psychologist who has prepared that report. They have been prosecuted in the State Security Court.
Publishing the report cost Shafika Gurbuz 1 year prison sentence.
Türkiye'de göç sorunu
Kurdish question is linked with the migration problem. If there is no solution to Kurdish problem, this problem will go on and there will not be a concrete solution to that problem. And now, unfortunately, we see that this government has no policy about that question.
کیژان باجاری
از لیجیمه
چه مثلا لیجه هات
وندی مخرب و مات
کی خراب کرد
دولته
بو شما
شاوت اندن گفت تروریستین گفت شاوت اندن
عائلته چند سنه
94 ده
چند دانه چند زاروک ده
7 زاروک
7 زاروک ایشت چیه
ایش هم سن بر yeşil meşle خوش
I continued my journey to Ankara. After all, it is a logical place for a journalist to visit. It is the city of politics. As I entered the supposedly secular capital of Turkish Republic, only the call to prayer from the Kizlay Mosque could be heard. In November 2002, the Islamist-based Justice and Development Party, on a landslide election victory, wiped out major parties from Turkish National Assembly. The new government has abolished the death penalty and introduced some significant reforms on Kurdish cultural rights, largely still on paper, to satisfy European requirements, but still education and broadcasting in Kurdish is prohibited. In Ankara, I met two Ankara's university students, Eylem and Miral.
Over our language in Turkey, still there's a pressure.
In 2002, in an early morning raid, police stormed into the dormitory and arrested 3 of them. They held in custody for 2 months without charges, but under allegation that they were supporters of a terrorist group.
The main reason, I think, was we want our language, we wanted our mother tongue. We wanted to learn our mother tongue, and we gave letters to the university. They said us that there isn't a language called Kurdish in Turkey, and the Kurdish language can't be taught in universities. This is very strange. I can speak in English, I can speak in Turkish. I'm a Kurdish girl, but I can't speak in my own language. You know Leyla Zana?
Who is Leyla Zana?
She was a parliamentary.
During our conversation, we came across the name of Leyla Zana, who has been in prison for the past 10 years.
A parliamentary of that party. But in parliament, she made a speech in Kurdish.
Leyla Zana was the first Kurdish woman ever elected to the Turkish parliament.
Leyla Zana.
Leyla's political career was short-lived. Saying a phrase in Kurdish, in a banned language, during her parliamentary oath, labeled her as a terrorist. After 2 failed attempts on her life, in March 1994, Leyla and her deputy friends were stripped of their parliamentary immunity, arrested, and prosecuted as a terrorist cell.
Parlamentoya ayak bastığımız günden bugüne dek savunduğumuz hep kardeşlik, demokrasi ve barışlık. Akan kardeş kanının durdurulmasıydı. Eğer tüm bunlar suçsa, evet bu suçu işledik. Bundan sonra da işlemeye devam edeceğiz.
Leyla and her colleagues were sentenced to 15 years in prison. My arrival in Ankara was coincided with the retrial of Leyla Zana. Eylem and Miral spent 2.5 months in the same prison cell with Leyla Zana while they were in custody.
The retrial of Leyla Zana is today, and we are going there to the court, State Security Court.
10 years after Leyla Zana's original trial in March 1994, Turkish justice system allowed a retrial for Leyla and her colleagues. The retrial was only possible when in 2001 the European Court for Human Rights found the Kurdish MP's original trial unlawful. So we'll wait here until they bring Leyla Zana to the court, and we are hoping to let us to get inside the courtroom. So the weather is not so cold, but it's worth to stay.
بیست و هفت ساله از لیلا زوجاندینه جی 5 سال ام به هورمانه نمانه لما أنا جانا عزمت برسل بهم هيدا از كردم ولا 124 سالي ما إجا نابا شعبي مدنيرن دبي شغل إيه هيدا دبي أم شعب أم كردن نابا زور وزختو تاني دجمن هذا حقي ما في ما كشاف ناكل سر ما ظلم دكن أم جا أبريا واي جانا خد دومينا زنداني دبو de ser kampanya amnesti min gelek name karşı gele dünya stand. Avana per mola da xazım wana nişan etebilirim. İşte enteresan e. Per mola ki bilim danemin avana kaderi 14,000 name o kart. Axlab eve Kebeki hücumur dışandın avya Ottawa. Avia jidve don't give up midzan. Devs dava xber nede. سال جار کی ازوات بینم. کره من أنا الإنسان فرنسا الباريسية. إذا من أنا درجبان باريسي بردا شو مرقات ياخد لأنقرة. هفته جاره که چه کردن های بینایی درته آو جانا لویه و اجیل برامه چوانه قزامه
After 3 hours delay, to hoops and applause from excited onlookers, Leyla Zana and her 3 co-defendants arrived with the prison van, gazed up briefly at the waiting cameras, and then walked through a side door of Ankara's state security court. In the freezing weather, the prisoners' families are waiting for today's court decision. They weren't allowed into the courthouse, nor were the cameras.
Polis naile emarındı. Gava polis bir halkı bernede mi berdinci enarç. Yani afka insan berve sarmaye, vicdanı mahkemeci tahammültke. O eva polis hacı, gava diye vabuna, hoşke vabuna, ve va insana lider vabiştna. Bela ev millet hane Kürde ve bastı ve zulm zorir vatkır.
geçen mahkemede de umudluydu.
They say we always optimistic, but we cannot get the results we want.
While waiting for the court decision, I had a chance to have a cup of tea and a chat about Kurdish problem with a group of Turkish journalists in a tea house.
The Kurdish movement, especially by the legal party they started to a campaign last year which is about an amnesty, a general amnesty for all, and including Abdullah Öcalan also. But the Turkish government didn't reply it.
Is that in this context of fighting for freedom, there are still rules that you should abide by, you know? And I don't think, like Leyla Zana, you know, she did not break any of those rules, you know? But some people, they did, you know? That's just my opinion, you know? So, I mean, I think that if you make a general amnesty that says, okay, the war is over, everyone out, then Öcalan, you should be released.
I think it's really difficult to argue about this.
You can just compare it with murdering or something like that because it was a war.
For years, talking about the Kurdish question was a taboo. But today, there is a sign of hope because at least the new generation recognizes the problem.
But maybe a few months or a few years.
Finally, after 13 months of hearings, the Ankara State Security Court ruled Leyla Zana and her friends must remain in jail to serve full prison term. Without delay, the European Commission has condemned the verdict and said it would be taken into account in considering Turkey's European Union entry bid.
Avrupa Birliği, Türkiye'deki bölücü ve Türkiye'nin birliğini zayıflatıcı çalışmalarının mihenk noktası olarak Leyla Zana davası üzerinde durduğunu yakinen bilmekteyim. Avrupa Birliği'nin bunu belirli bir stratejiye dayalı olarak yaptığına ben şahsen inanıyorum. Türkiye'de mahkemeler bağımsızdır. Hakimler mevcut meri kanunlara göre karar vermektedir. Bu kanunlarda tam anlamıyla demokratik bir kanundur.
Amnesty International declared Leyla Zana as a prisoner of conscience. She is a 3 times Nobel Peace Prize nominee, and in 1995 she was awarded the Sakharov Prize for Freedom of Thought.
Elle représente un des symboles de la lutte pour le droit de l'autodétermination des peuples. De même que Mandela, de même que Dalai Lama.
She's a figure. She's a figure of Kurdish women who have been forced to live in house, no right, no women right, and she broke all of these customs and began to increase in political life.
I continued my journey to Diyarbakir, the Kurdistan's biggest city. For 20-odd years, this city has been a place of violence, fear, and sometimes horror. It is the sort of place that journalists love and tourists hate. Staring east along the Diyarbakir's old walls, there is a bust of Kemal Atatürk, founder of the Turkish Republic.
زانی چه نویسی نجریا؟
یا زانم شما نخوش یا اره چه میلون به ترکم دیانه شما خوش ناید تشکی خوش ناید.
In Diyarbakir, I visit the office of DHAP. It is the largest Kurdish party in the region. In the 2002 election, DHAP gained more than 65% of the vote in the Kurdish area, but it was still not enough to have a representation in the Turkish parliament.
Türkiye'de antidemokratik bir uygulama olan ülke barajı var. %10 ülke barajını aşmayan partiler. Diyarbakır'da sadece 8 milletvekili çıkarabilecek kadar oy aldık. 11 milletvekili var Diyarbakır'ın. %65 ama yine de ülke barajını aşamamamızdan kaynaklı parlamentoya gidemedik.
Since 1991, 170 members of Leyla Zana's party have disappeared, been tortured to death while in police custody, or have been assassinated in broad daylight. The Turkish government called these killings unsolved murders. Amnesty International believes that Hezbollah death squads, supported by the Turkish security forces, committed these murders.
We've documented killings, disappearances, torture, mistreatment of members and supporters of that party at the hands of Hezbollah, which Leyla Zana was a member of parliament for. There's concern that the authorities may even have actually encouraged or colluded with Hezbollah. And the disappearance of 160 people associated with the same political party cannot simply be written off as a number of unsolved murders. It points to very alarming concerns of a pattern. It points to the almost inevitable conclusion that someone was systematically targeting those individuals.
Toplu mezar, you know, yeah, total grave. Kim öldürdü onları?
İşte 1993'te devlet tarafından götürüldü ve Mehmet Akdeniz arkadaş savcılarla beraber 11 kişiyle beraber mahkeme Avrupa Mahkemesi'ne verildi ve kazandı daha sonra.
Now they won the election because they applied for the European Human Rights Constitution Court and they won the
case.
Yeah, they won the case.
This region was under the state of emergency for 15 years. It was removed when the PKK called unilateral ceasefire following the arrest of its leader, Abdullah Öcalan. Öcalan was arrested in Kenya and taken by Turkish intelligence service back to Turkey. Analysts believe his capture was only possible with the help of CIA and Israeli intelligence service. Just a few years ago, here was the heart of the conflict. But today, people are talking about peace more often. But it doesn't translate that the Kurds have asserted their rights or the high rates of unemployment has been diminished.
ليلة ليلة ظناي شمال حبس زنداناي شمال حبس زنداناي خمتنا يا خويش ليلى خمتنا يا
Meet the Mothers of Peace. Their flag is their traditional white garment, a symbol of peace. The Mothers' Peace Initiative, established in 1999. Since then, they have been campaigning for peace and general amnesty so the children can come home. Currently, there are over 5,000 Kurdish political prisoners in Turkish jails and another 5,000 guerrillas in the mountains.
ده ساله من بکریه مگو مسئله مجلس جدایه لأوروپا جدایه یعنی ایرو ام دخوازن کی ام الوی درینه ام نه تنی دایی کی کردال وی داری بن دایی کی ترکشی ای اسکر دبه ای پلیس دبه کی جا دایی کی تر دایی کی
Almost everyone has lost a few members of their family in the conflict to imprisonment or to the guerrilla faction fighting in the mountain.
أبيا بابا زاروكي منه أبيا جي حرد الله منن أنا زاروكي منه شهيد باجار ما قلت برشوطانه حيوان شيء باس شيء دوار شيء مال شيء عرض شيء آخ شيء هرتش ظلم وحقارة المكرية أنا بسري خرابينه هاتناش خرادنا إيه هذا ميجي برين أستني مامي إيه از برنا قيد كرنا وندا كرنا كذا كشتبنت كذا كرنا بني ده كذا ها فهلي مشهور هات كذا كرنا بني خالي ملك شيء تنها كرت باقون كنا شوا نوتي كشتني كرت ملت وكيل كنا وجا نشوا نوتي كشتني همي ملت فقير وانن ملت خنوات نظانيني
This is Neshat Ana, the president of Mothers of Peace in Diyarbakir. She lost her daughter in the conflict.
أو هذا خونه أو رأيك شاف كل الوداريج مكتبي در كتنا الوداريك شاندنا أبيجي مكشان يا ساوا بيتو رجع دبرمشي ورستان بالي أبيجي مكشان دي أبيجي أوه شو بقولت
كم من 19 سالي بو
Eva sala çara ki şehit ketiye. Yani ku anha hebuna ana 23 sale bu. Ev ya işandaki eci haya sağbım el riyavi ve pey mücadele ve pey dozavi jbuna aşiti ezici ve jbuna azadiye xo jbuna demokrasiye. خبات اكتشتي كش دستي من ورن ازيج بي هاوي خبات يخوفكم حياكو اساقبم قال هاي خبيبه
آشتی دخواست دموکراسی دخواست
چند ساله
13 سال
13 سال اورنجی ها
آره
کلاسی چندی
کلاسی چم 8
باشه دوی بی بچی دوی وقتی مزن بوی
تبی چی
شغلاتو چی بی
تخوازی تبی چی
از ببیم اوقات
بو اوقات
آره
چما اوقات
ana merve suçsuz dikerin hapseci suçlu jidar var dikerin ez buna avan insana mücadele ekim.
وقتی مزن بوی اتای بی بچه
دکتر
بو چما دکتر
انا خاشا باش بکم
tamam liçi kırkım.
With the help of Amnesty International, sometimes the Mothers of Peace are joined by mothers from Argentina, Bosnia, and Lebanon who stand with the Saturday Mothers, also holding up pictures of their missing relatives. These gatherings occurred despite strong pressure from the police, who sometimes arrest and even assault these mothers in custody.
Henüz olumlu cevap yoktur. Şimdi analar da söylediği gibi henüz biz barış için meydanlara gidiyoruz. Barış çiçeği beyaz bir çiçek bir emniyet amirine verdim. Hala ona rağmen bizim kalçalarımızı kırdılar. Aldılar çiçeklerimizi ayağın altına çiğnediler.
Gözaltıları olmuştur. Tabii tavırları farklı oluyor posta. Kimi sert oluyor, kimi biraz daha şeydir. Zaten onlardaki politikadır. Sert de var, yumuşak da var. Biz zaten anne yaklaşan yine de onlara mesela zaman zaman oluyor işte biz sizin de anneniziz. Sizi de savunuyor. Sizin de yani bütün yani gözyaşın rengi yoktur yani. Şekli şemali yoktur yani. Ya Lazi, Çerkezi, Türk'ü biz ayırt etmiyoruz.
Presently, the Peace Mother Initiative is campaigning fervently for general amnesty, directing their strongest appeal to Turkish mothers with sons and or husbands in the military. They are urging all women on both sides who have suffered personal losses to come together and work for peace so that everyone's husband and children can come home.
Merhaba asker anneleri. Birbirimize çok yabancı kalsak da 14 Mayıs Anneler Günü dolayısıyla sizlerle barışa ilişkin duygu ve düşüncelerimizi paylaşmak istiyoruz. Sevgilerimizle Barış Anneleri İnisiyatifi. Barış, barış, barış.
I have decided to pay a visit to the Turkish mothers of martyrs, whose husbands and sons have been killed in a decade-long Kurdish struggle.
Şehit Namık Ayhan Akbaba'nın annesiyim. Oğlum 1993'te 3 Eylül'de şehit oldu. PKK terör örgütü tarafından 7 kurşunla şehit olmuştu. İşte orada oğlum askeri okulu bitirdi. 2 yıllık mezuniyeti vardı. 2 yıl sonra görevi başında Türk ordusunun bordo bereliydi. Özel timdeydi.
Tamam.
The Mothers of Martyrs insist that the Kurdish guerrillas are terrorists and their pain will only alleviate when the entire Kurdish guerrilla have been punished.
Ben teröristlerin annelerine şunu sesleniyorum. Şimdi biz Türkiye Cumhuriyeti olarak bu bayrak için çocuklarımızı askere gönderiyoruz. Türkiye'mizi koruması için. Türkiye'de yaşayan insanları koruması için. Fakat onlar işte demin onun için Avrupa'ya isyan ediyorum. Başkalarının maşası olup Türk askerine, polisine saldırıyor. Yani burada kendi kuyularını kendileri kazıyor. Ben onlar için hiçbir şey yok. Onlar da Türkiye'ye sahip çıksın.
Bayrakları bayrak yapan üstündeki kandır. Toprak eğer uğrunda ölen varsa vatandır.
What does it mean? Can you translate for me?
It means the flag is the flag if on it there is blood. If the flag has blood on it, then it's flag. and if there is some people who died for the land, then the land is your country. But if there isn't anybody,
Kamil, are you thinking the same as your mother thinking?
yes, but at some positions, I think harder than her, hard. You know, if I had Abdullah Öcalan now, I will cut him with a knife, but in little pieces.
The Turkish powerful military is behind the refusal of Kurdish demand for general amnesty. In June 2004, the 5-year ceasefire ended and war has started again. Back in Ankara, I took the question of Mothers of Peace for General Amnesty to a Turkish politician whose party has a close tie with the military.
Neyi affedeceğiz? 30 bin insanın katline sebebiyet vermiş, sanıyorum 100 milyar dolardan fazla bir harcamayı Türk insanın refahını harcamak gerekirken terörle mücadeleye harcamış olan Türkiye neyi affedecektir?
On the onset of the 2004 EU summit in Brussels, countless EU delegations have swished through Turkey, consulted and gone away, again to write up reports and propose further action for more reforms.
Avrupa Birliği, Türkiye'yi sanıyorum nüfusu ve cesameti itibariyle büyüklüğünden endişe duyduğu için parça parça kabul etmek gibi bir korkunç izlenim yaratan davranış içerisindedir. Türkiye büyük ve güçlü bir ülkedir. Bu büyük gücüyle ve büyüklüğüyle Avrupa Birliği'ne.
Despite the opposition of the military, Turkish government in a bold move released the Kurdish MPs from prison, including Leyla Zana, and also allowed a limited Kurdish broadcasting to satisfy EU. However, human rights violation against the Kurds remains the outstanding issue, preventing Turkey from beginning the EU accession process.
I'm heading from Ankara to Istanbul. In the bus I have seen so many Kurdish people from different parts of Kurdistan. They are risking their life and they are hoping to find a way, probably through the sea and mountain, walking, whatever it takes to get to Europe.
لا وكامل و بله كردستان خوشة بنا خوشة بلام بارو ظروفي منا خوشة ناتوانا بأمور بالبصر والله هيك بيتشارني
لا والله لا مش بنا خوشي من ضغط سنة لا بايران خوشة ما لا والله لا بمنا وكذا سرماية داري لا سرماية في سرماية لا والله سرماية أو عمري صالونية خوشة خوشة
As they disappeared in the crowded streets of Istanbul, I realized the Kurdish question isn't anymore an internal problem. It is a pressing international and humanitarian issue that requires special attention from international community.
جواب كين هجاهل كردستان بقرينين وباكي داكي شهيدا وخش كين عقيدا ودوت مؤمن زانا.
Biz 5. senedir bir tek taraf ateşkes olmuş. Bence yani benim görüşümce onlar daha savaş, eskiden daha beter savaş istiyorlar. Çünkü koruyucu sistemi henüz kaldırmadılar. Gelişme yok. Onun için biz pek yani güvenmiyoruz onun politikasına.
Diye Türkçe ders bilme. Kezema mevan yeke. Çadli meşhur devan şahında. Emtve daha branda bir konu nerje. Brada andına de Kurda Türkat der negrin bese edi dişarı bese.
دياري باجار يا مدى كتب باران وبرفان وزيد دياري باجار يا مدى كتب